Hello, this is Nitin Dahad with the Times. I'm here today at Applied Materials in Santa Clara, and I'm talking to Sundeep Bajikar at Applied Materials, and you'll tell us your title. Sundeep, what do you do here?
Hi, Nitin. Nice to meet you. And I am Corporate Vice President of Corporate Strategy and Marketing here at Applied.
Okay, and the reason we're here today is because you've just recently released a report, and it's all around the sustainability needs of enabling AI computing. So tell me a little bit about that and the background to it.
Yes, so our report is called Sustainable Energy Abundance for AI. And Applied Materials is quite well known as an enabler of energy efficient computing. And we believe that AI has tremendous potential to drive unprecedented increases in productivity. And that productivity increase, we think, is critical to address major global macroeconomic challenges. There are two major ones. One is demographics, and the second is debt. Now, the problem with AI is it consumes a massive amount of electricity. In fact, the work we did as early as 2018 suggested that AI could consume up to 12% of global electricity by 2030. So
that's already outdated.
Yeah, and we have been concerned that just enabling renewable energy is not going to get us there.
Yeah.
We're going to need a fundamentally new and holistic playbook for delivering this sustainable energy abundance. So our white paper really is an invitation to stakeholders across the industry.
Just before you go there, I think one of the things is the renewable strategies were purely done by the energy industry without really understanding the impact of AI in computing. I think that was a key background, isn't it?
I think so. I think when we did our work, which was a few years ago when Applied developed its strategy for decarbonization, we looked at a number of different models, most of which were produced by analysts that had an energy background. And those models seemed to underestimate the energy consumption and requirements for AI. And even the future of computing, because there will be other types of usage models, humanoid robots, for example, electric vehicles. So if you add all of those things up, we want to make sure that, again, we have this sustainable energy abundance for AI, but also the future of computing.
Okay, now we'll get to what you were about to say about the report.
I was just saying that the report itself, we hope, becomes an open platform and open invitation for a very broad range of industry stakeholders to really come together and align different aspects of technology, policy, and capital towards a shared objective, which is sustainable energy abundance for AI.
All right, let's dig into it a little bit. What are the key sort of findings of that report?
What we are postulating as part of this new playbook is to deliver on this promise. We want to enable three different areas. The first one, which we think is going to be the most important one, that receives the least amount of attention, is grid decarbonization. The second area is energy efficient computing. And that, as I said, is fairly well known in the industry. Applied has a strong position and is seen as an enabler of that technology. The third is monetizing new semiconductor applications in power electronics, but then in other areas also. And what is needed increasingly to be able to do that is something that we call high velocity co-innovation. So Applied has a platform called EPIC, Equipment Process Innovation Commercialization, to accelerate innovation in that fashion. And we can extend that same idea to delivering sustainable energy abundance as well.
Okay, so I mean, there's three elements. I think there are two where this electronics industry, the semiconductor industry, can potentially make an impact, but there's another area which is out of your hands. And so tell us how that all interplays and what's needed.
Yeah, so if you think about grid decarbonization, fundamentally it starts with generating more energy, right? Oil and gas, nuclear, and of course wind and solar, which has been a focus for renewables. The second area is modernizing the grid. What does that mean? The grid is really made up of energy generation. There's also transmission and distribution. And that infrastructure is in need of a significant upgrade. And then the third thing, just to make sure all of this is effective, is to make that infrastructure smarter. and smarter means semiconductors. So part of what we are arguing for is that the technology industry and the semiconductor industry should be very interested in modernizing the grid, because from our estimates, that represents a $50 billion of semiconductor revenue opportunity by 2030.
But will you get support? I mean, obviously, semiconductor industry will do it if there's a commercial interest or some kind of return on investment. But you need that third pillar, and will it make sense unless the third pillar is done? And what needs to be done for that third pillar, the grid decarbonization to happen?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and this is how we think about it. So if you think about the semiconductor industry, it's broadly kind of thought across the industry that we're heading towards $1 trillion of semiconductor revenues, by 2030.
Yeah.
It could be higher, it could be a little lower, but that's a pretty big number, very significant increase from where we are today. So if you think about the makeup of that, we think hundreds of billions of dollars of additional revenues are going to be generated by AI. So you certainly do not want to truncate that, and you do not want to find yourself short of energy or having to ration energy for other applications of computing to be able to get there. So that is probably the most critical catalyst, motivator for the industry. But then in addition to that, as we are pointing out, there is this incremental opportunity from modernizing the grid, from powering renewables, making the whole infrastructure smarter.
What's been the reaction, both from electronics industry, but also the energy industry, to your suggestions?
So it's funny because when we first actually introduced our models as early as 2018, 2019, there was quite a bit of pushback. You can kind of see it in the media. And so this was a time, remember, when there was no ChatGPT still. And so there was AI, but it wasn't quite as well known. And so we just took a pause on it, and I think more recently we decided to upgrade the model, refresh our assumptions. And as we went around looking for partners, pretty much every person and company that we pitched the idea to jumped on board very, very quickly. So you can see the white paper already has a number of industry partners for us, across energy, across our own customer base, across industry analysts. And there are many other partners that helped us, but are not named on the report. So we were very happy that to get that kind of support, and now we wish to extend that and recruit even more supporters to realize this promise.
And those supporters from customers, for example, Micron, you said, and a couple of others, and the energy industry?
Micron is certainly one of our largest customers, and they are a named partner on the report. They have been interested in working with us, right from the very beginning. In fact, I think there are 3 individuals from Micron who collaborated with us on this report. There are other customers that we have also been working with, and so this is very kind of important for these customers. They're announcing many tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investments in new semiconductor fabs, particularly in the United States, but also other parts of the world. Where you locate the fab, how you source clean energy for the fab, how you manage other aspects of sustainability like water consumption are critically important for the success of that operation, from a policy perspective, from a revenue generation perspective. And so all of these companies and partners have very high level of vested interest in enabling this sustainable energy abundance.
So what do you think about locating fabs in deserts?
Well, I think part of what we are trying to shift the dialogue towards, and part of what we're trying to advocate, is to factor in sustainability, have that be part of a broader corporate strategy level discussion in the company versus having been kind of sitting in a corner as part of the sustainability department. And so a big part of the effort that we undertook ourselves as we were developing our sustainability strategy was exactly this, because we struggled. We struggled in pitching this at different levels for different reasons. Everybody wanted to do it, but we wanted to make sure we found the business hook, and to make it sustainable, to turn it into a type of business return for us so that we could keep doing more and more of it and encourage other people to do similarly.
Now, let's sort of move on. So what's the action plan and timeline that you've suggested, or are there things which people can now do from the partners that you've talked to?
Well, there is no specific timeline. I think
Okay.
a number of companies have announced their sustainability targets, so they will be marching towards those already. And if they decide to join hands with us and accelerate modernization of the grid, we think it'll only accelerate their journey, and it'll kind of bring forward their own timelines on when they can achieve sustainability and decarbonization. Different companies measure it at different levels.
Yeah.
There's a lot of complexity in how various emissions are measured and success metrics. So we are hoping to focus on the big element, which is grid decarbonization, and we think that will give everyone the biggest bang for their buck in terms of bringing them closer to their targets.
Do you think there's a need for like a committee or a organization that's maybe helps drive some of that amongst all the people who are interested?
Maybe, but I think, as you know, and many people know, there are already a number of organizations.
Like in SEMI, for example.
SEMI has working groups. Our company participates and advocates on those working groups.
Yeah.
So we have existing channels, but I think what I'm pointing out is a lot of those efforts across all of these different working groups were taking a different approach towards sustainability, which was more narrowly focused on enabling renewable energy and investments in things like power purchase agreements and virtual power purchase agreements,
Okay.
which didn't directly address the challenges relative to the grid, which is what we're focusing on now. So that's part of the new playbook.
Okay, so what's your hope and ambition? What's your hope now?
Well, I think, number one, we want to drive awareness of the grid issue. We think a lot of smart people are aware of it, and we want to combine that energy to drive visibility at the policy level. At least from a policy perspective, if there are elements that can accelerate permitting and infrastructure investments to modernize the grid, then certainly that would be very, very positive from our standpoint. We're also interested in connecting with different types of industry partners, not just in the semiconductor industry,
Yeah.
in the broader technology vertical stack, whether it's other companies that build data centers, companies that are involved in building nuclear energy, for example. So we want to broaden our connections. We want to be part of that conversation that shapes not just the technology roadmap, but also the sustainable energy roadmap.
I mean, this is what I'm seeing now over the last year or two. The connectivity of the semiconductor industry goes way beyond traditional sectors, and I'm seeing all those connections and relationships being made, and I think that's kind of what you're hoping for as well.
I think that's a great observation, and something that we have pointed out. As the technology industry and the technology itself for enabling AI becomes more and more and more complex, it becomes impossible for any single company or entity to do it all by themselves.
Yeah.
And recognizing that you need a different model for this high velocity co-innovation, we think is an innovation in itself that we hope will accelerate formation of partnerships, a different mode of collaboration, not just across the semiconductor industry, but across the semiconductor and energy industries and other industries.
Now, I'm going to ask a question which basically connects to something else you've done in your career. So can you see a lot of startups coming up in this area which might address some of these challenges in a very innovative way?
It's entirely possible. There are big companies that have a lot of resources that can accelerate these, that can make investments in private companies that may have specific technologies to solve challenges like deployment of nuclear or accelerating modernization of the grid. Quite frankly, we need all of it.
Yeah.
And then we need more, right? So I think we're at a place where we need all of these enhancements from AI. We need that productivity, because the global challenges that I pointed out of demographics, that is going to hit every country in the world, every region in the world. Likewise with debt, what's happening with debt, which has been sort of played a role to address this demographic challenge, is running out of juice. The marginal productivity, revenue productivity of each dollar of debt is decreasing really quickly. And so the only way out, we think, is by driving growth. And the primary input into driving that growth is this immense productivity that we think AI holds potential for.
Well, Sundeep Bajikar, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nitin.
Thank you.